Good afternoon. This is a response to Logan's video, about counselor self-impairment. You're right in what you assert that we don't know the full story of what happened to these counselors that made that the circumstances surrounding their disciplinary actions. We can only use those as cautionary tales because one day there probably going to be there may be some graduate students reading about our indiscretions. So we need to be very careful in making assumptions and judgments. I do agree with you there. From my research, I looked at what Coleman, Martinson, Scott, and Delicato in 2016. In their article, they talked about what was known as vicarious trauma. And that is they define it as secondary trauma that is experienced by counselors when they hear about traumatic experiences from their clients. And from what they assert, it does have PTSD-like symptoms. And those symptoms, and coming from that experience, it may lead to things like substance abuse, compassion fatigue, and be a big influencer of burnout. And to your point about counselor self-care, they further, Coleman, Martinson, Scott, and Indelicato in 2016, they purport what is known as the three main components of self-care: self-kindness, a sense of humanity, and mindfulness. All these things were, they're developed. Let's break it down. Number one, you acknowledge that your experiences are part of a larger human condition, and holding painful thoughts in mindful awareness. That by increasing the self-compassion and changing their relationship to the experiences, individuals can lessen the impact of those circumstances on their well-being and reduce the compassion fatigue. Their main thing is when over time you hear about these traumatic experiences and they're being replayed over and over again, that it does take a toll on your well-being. That you don't deny them, you acknowledge them, and you're able to process those experiences and put them in their proper context. Just like we have to bracket our feelings and our biases as counselors or counselors in training, we do the same thing with our feelings as we process those feelings from what we hear or what we will hear on a day-to-day basis. The self-compassion aspect results from gaining clarity and perspective of one's experiences, and therefore may develop from mindfulness. That's another quote from the Martinson, Coleman, Scott, and Delicato articles. Yes, you are correct. We can't judge what counselors have gone through. And just looking on the site, the disciplinary positions or dispositions, they don't tell the full story. You have to use those as cautionary tales as we go throughout our careers, and to make sure that we are taking care of ourselves as we are looking after our clients. Again, very good presentation. You brought up a lot of good points. Thank you.